The Nintendo Switch 2 has so many games coming out on launch, but which games are the must-haves on day one? If you enjoy games like Animal Crossing, Zelda games like Link's Awakening or Echoes of Wisdom, you need to get Fantasy Life I, the Girl Who Steals Time from the Studio Level 5. Right from the start of the game, you create your own unique character, and you'll be able to follow a story and solve this insane time travel paradox of a story that is happening. This game has a life system, which is basically jobs. They have combat classes, crafting classes, gatherer classes. The game's really for everyone. You'll be able to completely build an entire town, just like Animal Crossing, decorate your house, craft stuff for your island. You'll also be able to recruit other NPCs to your village that also have their own jobs to help you with crafting, combat, or gathering. And they have a giant open world filled map with enemies, missions, dungeons, and even shrines that may look a little familiar to Tears of the Kingdom with their own puzzles. On top of that, the game is multiplayer, so you can play with 4 friends or even do local co-op. They even have dungeons you can plant on your island that randomizes its layout every time you clear it, so it's never ending. This game is currently already out on the Nintendo Switch 1, and on the Nintendo Switch 2, the upgrade for that will cost you $2.59, or you can just purchase the Switch 2 version for $62.58. I strongly feel this game is worth the cost as it's filled with a ton of content, as I mentioned. I've actually been playing on Steam a lot, and they even have a cross-save feature too, so if you have an Epic account, I can take my current progress and just throw it on the Switch 2. This is definitely a game I'm playing at launch, and it really feels like a perfect Nintendo Switch 2 game. Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's actually really mind-blowing that a game this massive runs this well on the Switch 2. We're getting over 60 GB of content, including Phantom Liberty and every single major update. I even played it myself at the Switch 2 event in New York City, and the performance holds up shockingly really well. In fact, in some gameplay that was released, people have noticed that it runs better on the Switch 2 than it did on the PS4 and the Xbox One. The only drawback for this game is that you need to keep in mind that playing on handheld might drain your battery pretty fast, as this is a really beefy and chunky game, but this is going to be a great game to play in docked mode, and it's huge. If you want hours and hours of content, Cyberpunk 2077 is a no-brainer pickup. Now, these two games have already been out on the Nintendo Switch. However, this staple of a game is going to be running perfect on the Switch 2, and that is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. Now, the difference in price is $69.99 versus $79.99, and if you previously already owned these games on the Nintendo Switch, it's going to cost you $10 to upgrade. However, if you have the Nintendo Switch Online Plus membership, the highest tier membership that Nintendo has with the expansion pass, you'll be able to have the upgrade for both of these Zelda games for completely free. On top of that, Nintendo is adding more bonus features to this game, and they're integrating it with their Nintendo Switch app, which is going to have something called Zelda Notes in it that is filled with a ton of features, and you even get bonus story content for Tears of the Kingdom to fill your lore-filled brain with even more things, as well as pretty much a Google Maps GPS locator to find a bunch of Korok seeds. So it's quite a different way to experience the game. On top of that, they even provided another save file, so that way you can start a brand new playthrough of the game, and I really truly feel this is the way this game was envisioned to play. It finally is going to be smooth. It looks beautiful. I even had my hands on it at the Nintendo Switch 2 preview in New York, and I was just mind blown by how amazing it looks. I mean, if you look at this gameplay on the screen right now, you can see the difference between the Switch 1 version of Tears of the Kingdom and then the Switch 2 version of Tears of the Kingdom. Even the fast travel times from Breath of the Wild have decreased. Like, it doesn't take that long in the loading screen. So a no-brainer. This is definitely a game you gotta play. I'm definitely playing this game again. Speaking about must-have games for the Nintendo Switch 2, this game is from today's video sponsor, Sega and RGG Studio. This game is Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, which I actually got to play early when Nintendo invited me to the Nintendo Switch 2 preview event in New York City. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut is actually one of the best places to start in this series because it's the origin story in the franchise. In this game, you're finding your way through the faithfully recreated neon-lit red light districts of 1998 Tokyo and Osaka. Osaka. You play as Kazuma Kiryu, an up-and-coming Yakuza, and Goro Majima, a cabaret club manager, who each have 3 unique fighting styles that can be switched on the fly to crack enemy skulls. You can also create makeshift weapons with items in the environment and perform really cool finisher moves called heat actions that destroy your enemies. Now, the really cool part about this game is when you don't want to fight, they have activities in the game like karaoke, disco, dancing, bowling, and a full-blown retro Sega arcade in it. I know. Kind of crazy. Now, what makes Yakuza 0 Director's Cut one of the best third-party games coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 is that they've actually added 25 minutes of cutscenes, full English voiceover,
I had to learn that one the hard way,
an online co-op multiplayer mode where you can play with 3 CPU allies or 3 friends to take down mobs, and it has 60 playable characters. The game also runs at 60 FPS handheld and can be 4K in docked mode. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut will be available at launch on June 5th, and you can pre-order it now. So check the link in the description for more information on that. Now, the next 2 games that I'm going to talk about are from Capcom, and they're absolutely cooking with these specific 2 ones. If you want something totally different but really visually stunning, Kunitsu Gami Path of the Goddess is definitely a must-play action hybrid that blends tower defense with high-speed dance-like sword combat. Now, they're taking inspiration straight from Japanese folklore with this game, and the world feels really spiritual, vibrant, and dangerous. By day, you're just rescuing a bunch of villagers and strategically assigning them roles like archers, fighters, or support, kind of like building a defense squad, and by night, you're then fighting off these waves of corrupted enemies in real-time combat using swordplay that looks like a battle dance. This game is really fast, it's tactical, and it just looks visually stunning, and it's going to look so good on the portable Switch 2 as well. And the Switch 2 is also getting multiple control options, including mouse support, which makes positioning and strategy feel a lot more intuitive while playing these kind of tower defense games. So definitely, if you're into that style of game, you should pick that up. Next up is Street Fighter 6 Years 1 to 2 Fighters Edition, and let me tell you, this game is very fun because they have new modes specifically for the Switch 2. I actually was able to play this at the Switch 2 event in New York City with my friend Roger's base, and we had a really fun time. Now, just to give you context, this specific version of Street Fighter comes with the Year 1 and Year 2 Fighters Edition, which means you get all the DLC characters right out of the gate, so no waiting, no extra purchases. You just load up the game and all the characters are there to unlock. Now, talking about the Switch 2 crazy modes, Street Fighter 6 actually has exclusive party modes for the Switch that turn it into a workout mode. There's Gyro Battle, where you literally tilt and twist the Joy-Cons to attack, which is a really interesting way to play the game. And they have something nuts called Calorie Contest, where the player who burns the most calorie wins. And I was absolutely burned out after doing this mode, and I burned quite a bit of calories. I promise this mode is going to be so fun when you have a bunch of people in a group playing or you're with your friends. Definitely one of the games you need to pick up. Also, if you're trying to get in shape, you could probably Hadouken your way to fitness. This is the game you need to do that for. All right, let's move on. Now, what is the Nintendo Switch 2 without a really fun JRPG game? This next game is called Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, and this game actually was on the Nintendo 3DS, and a lot of people may have not played it, but it is a very crazy story of a game. The gameplay is very fun, and if you played games like Octopath Traveler 1 or Octopath Traveler 2, it's because of Bravely Default that you even have Octopath Traveler, as the same style of battling, which is the Bravely Default system, is in there. Now, this is the game that started it all when it comes to this combat system, and the Switch 2 version is actually pretty interesting. You're getting a full complete HD makeover, you get faster scene skipping, and you even have new Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive mini games that use the mouse feature on the Joy-Cons that reward you with in-game items. So that's cool that they did that. However, the big core about this game that's really fun is the strategic turn-based combat built around the system of the Bravely Default. Now, the reason why this system is so insane is because you can either go all out with multiple actions in one single turn, or defend and stack moves for a massive counter or attack later on. So it's really a risk and reward system. This game has a bunch of jobs, so tons of different classes that every single character can learn, lots of twists in the story, crystals, darkness, you know, the whole Final Fantasy thing. It's done right. It's a very fun game, and it's gonna look great on the Switch. And if you really want to have a great Final Fantasy style vibe game, this is the game you need to play, and I will be 100% playing this on launch as well. So this next one is a little bit of a technicality. It's going to be the GameCube games that are on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, the best part about this is if you have the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, you will get access to all these games for completely free. And they have games on launch like F-Zero GX, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, which is, come on, it's Windwaker, and Soulcalibur 3, which actually features Link as a playable character, which I also was able to try out while being at the Nintendo Switch 2 event in New York City, and it was a ton of fun. And look, Nintendo also had a video showing all the games that are coming out for the GameCube, so this is by default just a freebie if you're already paying for the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. I mean, they even have Pokemon games coming, the Shadow one with Shadow Lugia, like what? That's insane. Also, on top of that, they do have a GameCube controller that they released exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2, which is going to cost $64.99 USD. However, on Nintendo's website as of right now, it is currently sold out. So hopefully you'll be able to find a restock in the upcoming future. But yeah, I wanted to mention this, really important. This is a great way to play all the GameCube games. Now, we've talked about tower defense strategy games. However, there is also just a full-blown simulation strategy game, and that is going to be Sid Meier's Civilization 7, the Nintendo Switch 2 edition. So if you own this on the Nintendo Switch 1, it's $59.99, but the upgrade is going to cost you $9.99. Now, this is huge for strategy fans, and if you're curious what this is really the ultimate kind of turn-based strategy giant board game where you build your empire from scratch. You can go to war, develop whatever culture you want, or literally just launch into space. You basically pick your world leader, shape your nation's policies, and you make decisions in this game that ripple through the centuries as time goes on. You can go all the way from ancient history to the future, and the Switch 2 version includes full mouse support with that lovely Joy-Con, which makes navigating menus, managing tiles, and planning your turns a lot easier. So I think this is great for a strategy game with this much depth. So if you want to conquer the world as someone who likes waging war on people, or you want to be diplomatic or focus on science and culture, this game gives you a ton of tools to play with, and the sessions last a really long time. So it's a great time killer. So definitely, if you're into these kind of games, this is a must buy. Now, if you're into co-op games, and if you ever played a game like It Takes Two, then Split Fiction on the Nintendo Switch is going to be a must-play, as it's made by the exact same studio. This game throws you and the friend you play with into a wild mix of sci-fi worlds and fantasy worlds where you'll be able to work together and navigate through a bunch of puzzles and challenges. And seriously, this challenges your friendships, because if one friend messes up a puzzle, you both just don't succeed in it. So it really requires communication. Now, one of the standout features about a game like this, which needs to be praised in our game industry, is the Friends Pass. With just one copy of the game, you can invite a friend to join you online, even if they're on a different platform, thanks to the crossplay support. This means you can team up with a friend regardless of whether they're playing on the Switch 2, the PC, or other consoles. So on top of that, the Switch 2 introduces Game Share, which allows you to share the game locally with another player. So even if they're using their original Switch, this feature lets you play together without needing a second copy of the game. Now, this game also takes advantage of Nintendo Switch 2's Game Chat feature, which is going to enable voice and video communication, so you can yell at your friend while they see you yelling at them if they're messing up during this game. This will definitely help make your coordinating with your co-op partner a lot more fun and engaging, and you'll probably have way more funnier moments while playing this game. So definitely is a must pick up if you want to have a fun game to play with a friend. Of course, let's not forget about Mario Kart World, which is the biggest game that is coming out on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, while this game is going to cost you $79.99 USD, the Nintendo Switch 2 bundle that comes with Mario Kart World is going to be $499.99, which actually makes the game's value be at $50, which is a pretty great way to get your hands on Mario Kart. Now, the reason why Mario Kart World is such a big deal is because it's Nintendo's most ambitious Mario Kart game. They have various modes like the Grand Prix, time travel. They even have battle modes on this, as well as Knockout Tour, which is by far my most favorite game mode on this, where you just have to stay in the front to not get eliminated. It's pretty cool. It's like a little battle royale of racing while you keep moving on to the next map. Now, it's up to 4 players on a single console when it comes to multiplayer, local wireless up to 8 players, and online racing supporting up to 24 players, making it just a ton of racers. Now, this game is a fully open world design, which means you can do the free roam feature and roam around everywhere. Nintendo has also posted up that there are a bunch of different mini games that give you various prizes and little missions that you can enjoy throughout the game. On top of that, they have so many costumes in the game that you'll be trying to figure out how to unlock by stopping off at a fast food joint, and you'll unlock that character's outfit. And who knows, maybe there's other ways of also unlocking outfits in the game. On top of that, there's dynamic weather, there's day and night cycles. There's just a bunch of characters like the Goomba, Spike, Wiggler, and the Moo Moo Cow. I mean, what can be better than the Moo Moo Cow? The best part is, though, that this runs at 60 frames per second with HD visuals. On top of that, we have the funny built-in game chat integration, which I think is going to be great. For just, you know, when you're talking smack to each other while racing and just seeing each other on the screen. It's going to be a fun time. So this is definitely a day one must play. So let me know which Switch 2 games you're going to pick up, and if I missed one, which one do you suggest people should play? And while you're at it, check out this video over here on your screen.